to The Balancing Act. Now here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
We are recording.
Yes, we are. We are recording.
Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I am here with Coffee Joe, Mocha Joe.
Yeah, Mocha Joe.
Yeah. I'm here with Joseph Vitale, and I am Jamie Wonko, and welcome to this episode of the Balancing Act podcast, where two very exhausted teachers are now going to, give it our best, give it our all, as we do every time for the listener.
And you know what's awesome is that this is our 16th episode. So our podcast can now get a permit in New Jersey. So it has also reached puberty, and
it's a lot of feelings.
It has a lot of feelings. There's like a new setup for you today. It's like a plant back there, and
I usually shove like everything out. I'm going to work on, we just recently spoke to someone who was talking about her. That episode will drop, at some time, but we were talking to her about her setup and her situation. And I thought, I got to put a little bit of effort into my background, except that I never did.
We will eventually get there.
We'll eventually get the picture of Nick
every time I say it, I feel like there's two things I think of every time I say this. Number one, I always think of the Jimmy Kimmel show when he's always like, "Oh, sorry, Matt Damon, we couldn't have you on the show," because that's the first thing I think of. The second thing I always think of is one of the greatest skits in SNL history, which is
NSF.
Yes, SNL history, which is "What Up With That" with Kenan Thompson. Ooh wee, it's one of my favorites, and they always have Lindsey Buckingham. Lindsey Buckingham, we can't have you on. And then he always is like, "You're not mad." So like, I'm gonna say it again, it's still not there. I do not have my framed heart-shaped picture of Nick Ferroni yet. It's coming.
Where is it?
It's gonna. Look at you looking to the sky. I love it.
Where is it?
Okay, so what it's been
What's up with you?
Oh, that is such a great skit. Do you still watch Saturday Night Live? Do you still watch it?
Of course.
I do too.
I mean, do I watch it at 11:30 at night? No, but
no. Oh no.
It's
always watched the next morning.
Yeah.
Which is always a treat. It's always watched on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
I like the classics though. But What Up With That? Like I could watch that like
over and over.
Jason Sudeikis coming out doing the Running Man, like it's just one of the best skits in human history.
Too bad his career didn't take off.
The other
one.
Who else was the other ones? Drunk Uncle. Drunk Uncle is
Drunk Uncle.
Kenan Wi-Fi organic
is the longest running cast member on Saturday Night Live.
He is. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of longest running, I feel like this month currently, which we are at the end of February now, is the longest month in human history. Why is it the shortest month?
You said that about January. That's just
the longest one. Because January,
we don't have a makeup artist on the set. I'm a little glowy today.
January has 58 days. So
I thought February was like gone in a snap.
Yes.
Really? It's crazy. Somebody today at work, and I'm sure, there's a lot of memes about this, but somebody said to me today, I can't believe it's only Wednesday. And I really when I tell you genuinely thought to myself this morning, like, woohoo, it's Wednesday already. It's just, time is such an interesting, right? Where they say, time is a social construct, but it really is just such an interesting, of the way that we feel in different times and different hours and weeks. But I was like, wow, and there they, I don't know how I'm ever going to make it to Friday. There was a
little Eeyore in that impression there. I like it.
It was early. It was like, it was before 8 a.m. and they were real tired.
Gotcha.
But it was, oh wow.
So what are we talking about today, friend? Besides SNL and other things.
And our Sweet 16 episode?
What are we talking about?
Okay, so let's just say, if this is the Sweet 16, we are going to talk about parents in a minute. But let's just say, if this is our Sweet 16 episode, right? We have children that are turning 16 soon, but I'm going to talk about you being 16. What would be your preference if you were 16 years old right now?
Yes.
Right. So you weren't you in the 90s. You're you now. Would you pick a party? Would you pick a trip?
Okay.
Or do you have, like, something completely like Dorsey? Would you pick a telescope like the kid from Can't Buy Me Love? The African Anteater Dads! What would you pick?
That is an excellent reference.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ooh, Patrick, a young
16
Patrick Dempsey.
16-year-old me, I would not want to party. That's just not I
No,
mean,
you right now,
no,
not
that's what I'm saying. Like
okay.
me right now would not
Yep,
want to party.
okay.
It probably would be an experience because I think
Hmm,
that there's so many because we're doing that with our own kids, so it's a little self-serving. So,
okay.
my wife and daughter actually, even though our kids are 16 in this year, last year took my daughter to Paris for a long weekend over Thanksgiving, which was an amazing experience for her because of how into art she is and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Fan
that was an amazing experience.
and they didn't get bed bugs.
They did not get bed bugs, and we're still doing I probably would be an experience,
Okay.
because we've done some things recently. We've went to some outdoor hockey games and sporting events and stuff like that. So those are things I think that we really enjoy as a family. Um, I think like a trip or experience would be tops on my list. What about you?
Nice. I have to say that one of my friend's children got invited to a Sweet 16 cruise last summer, and she got to
Oh,
go. Yeah. So even though the mom and dad were there, it was like a room of four girls who got to go on a cruise. And I thought that that was really neat.
hmm.
So I would have to say if that was something, if I could pick that, it's nice to go away with your parents, but as a teen, you just, enjoy your friends so much. So I think that's kind of like the best of both worlds. I think I'd copy her.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
that's
I
really
mean, if I
cool.
had a choice to do anything, but yeah.
Yeah, to like bring like a close friend or two to
Yeah.
a little weekend thing, I think would be great. I think that would be a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
A little
Um,
Port Liberté action, just
yeah,
cruising
I
around.
mean the parties are nice. Don't get me wrong. If you're planning a Sweet 16 party,
Yeah.
but it's a large expense, and it might be just as nice to go do something that you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
To give your child a choice and even have them help in some of the planning might be a good
Yeah.
idea to
I think
learn
that
that
it's
life skill.
nice, if you love a good party, that's definitely an experience,
I mean, you love a good party, that is for sure.
I love
Um,
to go to a party.
you
I don't wanna host a party, but
yes.
yeah.
I
I like
don't
to
mind
plan a party, but I don't wanna have to and cutting cake, forget it. I can't even talk about grind my gears. Oh lord. That was, like, one of the things I absolutely hated the most about being a parent as we segue into our parents episode. I hate cutting cake.
this is a rant. I love eating cake. I have a very good friend of mine who does not listen to the podcast, and she often sends me memes about
How
eating
good of a
cake.
friend is she?
And
If
she's
she's not
yeah, she should
listening.
be listening to the podcast.
Come on,
I don't
come on.
really I don't really listen to podcasts.
Well, you
Um
should.
Well, you should. I'm gonna cut this clip out and I'm gonna
Thank
send it.
you.
It'll be like so she'll send me memes about things, and I'm a big believer in once you realize you can buy birthday cake for any occasion, the second half of your life begins. Because I'm a big fan of a birthday cake. I
Mm.
am not a big fan of people who put fruit in a birthday cake. I do not
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah, okay.
I do not like bananas in a cake.
Mm.
I will fight somebody if I go to your and I'm like, "Oh my god, there's a birthday cake," and they have bananas in it. I'm like,
Hmm.
"What? Who does like?"
A
And the
lot.
bananas,
That's a pretty common filling.
yeah,
Bananas, strawberries.
and they get like brown and gross.
Mm.
And what are we
Well,
doing? What people? What are we doing here?
as
Okay,
long as I don't have to cut it, I don't really care.
you know. All right. So what was the stress behind the cutting? Just to make sure everybody
Well,
had a
it's
piece.
everybody have equal size, and then also when children are like, "I want the flour," I wanna take the whole cake and just, like, smash their face in it. The more you
Bing,
know.
bing, bing. What up with that? All right.
But, that's just me here on, how do you balance not smashing somebody's face in a cake? I do think that the idea of taking, like, champagne flutes and just, like, scooping cake
I've
and
seen
handing it
that.
I can't be the only one who hates to cut cake, or someone wouldn't have come up with that little jam.
I think
What a great
I
idea.
started, like, in the cupcake cake where you, like, pull the cupcakes out and then you
Yes.
add them
I
and then you
love
have them.
that.
Those are
I
always
did
good.
that. We did that when the kids were little. Many a birthday was a
Yeah.
cupcake cake.
Many a
Pull and
birthday.
go. Pull and run away.
Pull and run away. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah,
All
it'd be
right.
great.
So today we are gonna talk about parents. And we're trying to keep this
Hmm.
positive.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's going to happen. So if we
We're just going to give you our, we're going to give you our
we
interesting
give you our
perspective.
honest take.
Also, maybe we should have had a non-teacher parent. Maybe we can do that another time, right? We can interview someone who is not a teacher, because we are
Yeah.
both obviously in that very unique position of not only being teachers, and that's our profession, our lifelong passion, but also parents. So some people can say, "Ooh, teachers are the worst parents because we," So I've heard arguments in that direction also, but I'd be interested maybe to hear, what someone who is not a teacher feels, in this role as parent. But, today we're going to talk about and express some of the concerns and issues that have come up from some of our good friends and colleagues, and, just about what it is and what it means to be a parent when your child is of school age, and the responsibilities or lack thereof that we've witnessed in our 25 years of educating.
Yeah. I want to actually start with D. Hankins, who is an inspirational speaker, and he's a fan of educators on Instagram. His
Okay.
post is I wouldn't necessarily call it controversial,
Mm.
but I think it's an important one. And Jamie, I think I had sent this to you the other day when he talks about how when kids are showing up to school with the nicest of the nice, with nice shoes and a brand new iPhone and AirPods, and they're failing their classes in middle school, that is a parenting issue and not a school issue.
It is not the teachers. It is not the school. The school and the teachers are a supporting cast. The habits that they need to succeed in school are built at home first, with the parent first. If your kid is failing middle school, failing high school, but coming to school with Jordans, has an Xbox, a PlayStation 5, hanging out with friends, got a bicycle, he's popping wheelies down the street, he's got a brand new cell phone with Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, but he's failing middle school, that is a parent thing.
But I kind of wholeheartedly agree with that statement. I know it's difficult, a difficult stance to take, but we have a number of young people that I've dealt with over my career that have the newest of everything, yet they are not. Their education part of life is not valued, and the parents are not showing up to parent meetings or returning phone calls or responding to emails, and that's a very challenging thing as an educator to do, especially when we're supposed to fix all the world's problems. Um,
Yeah.
that is a challenge.
Do you think that so there's a couple of different layers to things that might be causing a problem. I do think that, there is a misconception when a child leaves grammar school, elementary school, that they're going to, oh, they're so responsible and they should be taking care of their own business. And so I think what was always part of my back to school night speech as a sixth grade teacher, that was so the kids would go K-5, then they'd come in six, and it was always my back to school night speech to the parents who came, which, let's say in a class of 25 kids, it would be maybe 5 or 6 people, which was a lot for six. The numbers really went down by eighth grade, but um, the parents, I would say to them on back to school night, you may have this idea that your child is entering these grades and that you should be giving them, kind of stepping back a little bit. And I disagree. I think you should lean in.
Yeah.
And lean in was always a check, ask, talk, see how much information you can get out of them and stay on top of them, because some kids really and genuinely cannot handle that, oh, fly away bird. They're not equipped. They're not mature enough. They can't do it. And, and so that is part of the problem. The other part of the problem is perhaps like lack of consequences. Like when you get to high school, if you fail, you don't continue.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we don't have that in middle school. In many cases, they want to sort of push them along and get them going.
Correct. I
Yeah.
mean, we understand that there's a monetary component to reschooling a child in a school district. That's an additional amount of money that has to be accounted for that child to have an extra year of school. And I'd be interested to know, I really would be, like, what's the data on kids that are retained in a later grade and whether or not they actually finally wind up graduating from high school? Or do they wind up in some sort of academy or getting their GED, which there's nothing wrong with.
Right.
But if like, what's the goal? And I don't necessarily know if that's necessarily retention or passing.
Right.
Excuse me. So that is definitely something that's challenging for me to think of. I've again, we've been teaching for a very long time. A handful of kids have been retained. We now have summer school where kids are asked to go and complete work. I don't know how rigorous that is.
Yeah.
And can you really make up a year's worth of content in 2 weeks? I don't necessarily, or 3 weeks, whatever it is. I don't
No.
necessarily think so.
Yeah.
Um,
So how do you, you know, I think the the layering here happens like this. You have a handful of students who are doing very, very poorly. You refer them to counselors, you call home, you send letters, emails, you contact counselor contacts, administration contacts, and in some cases the kids are missing 30, 40 days of school plus, right? And they kind of continue on, and then everything turns and points to the teacher and says to the teacher, what have you done? Have you done everything? Have you sent a mid-marking period reminder? Did you remind the parents of the reminder? Did you call them about the reminder? Which becomes an issue for teachers because how many more, right? It's the question we have over and over and over again. How much more can I possibly do at my job while I'm trying to do my job?
I think I know that's rhetorical. I literally think I'm at capacity at this point. For the first time, and this is an eye-opening moment for me. I think literally for the first time in my career, I'm like, "Yep, I am at capacity," because I cannot give any time, any substantial amount of time to responsibilities for my job outside of work due to
Yep.
my children's responsibilities. It's just, I'm just at that point in life right now. My kids are involved in a bunch of different activities and they do not have a driver's license. So I
And
am responsible.
if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done, but the greater
Yeah.
issue is what are we doing really as a society? So I'm working with someone this year who she and I are really very much in agreement about a lot of different things, and especially the way that we treat the kids, the way that we speak to the kids. And so it's been really nice, with working with someone that is in, really just like such great alignment in like philosophical points of view for education. And, oftentimes we talk about, people who yell and scream and or want to almost like it seems like sometimes, and they're so frustrated, which I do understand. I'm not a teacher trader, but what I don't understand and what we talk about sometimes is, not only are you trying to fight with someone who it doesn't have a fully developed brain, but you're all right and lacks impulse control, but you're also kind of getting into it with someone who's not really in charge of their own life.
Yeah.
So when you look at someone who is, 12, 13, 14 years old, you have to go back to the parents and wonder, like, where is the responsibility for the parents?
Yeah. I don't again, I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a number of students in my career that I've dealt with, and I tried so many different strategies to not
Yeah.
just reach a person. You have a hypothetical. You have a young man who um, is a behavior problem in other classes, but maybe in yours he's not, and you just realize like he absolutely hates school.
Mm,
He's not a bad person. He just
mhm.
hates the idea of like, oh, this math and that thing and that thing. I'm like, okay. And he's really into cars and working with his hands. I'm like, okay, this kid needs to go to Votech. Like that's the right environment for him. And it's getting the parents on board and getting other people on board to not, I mean, I don't think people would necessarily see stigma in that, but like sometimes people look at vocations as, um, what am I looking to say here? They look at vocations as like lesser careers.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I don't know about any of you, but the last time I had to call a plumber, it ain't cheap. So they they do quite well for themselves.
Yeah.
Um, so it's again, but it's like it's teachers. It's then reaching out and say, okay, we want to have a meeting with you to talk about your son and their progress. And it was okay. They're going to show up on this date. They don't show up. We schedule another time. They don't confirm. We schedule a third date. It's 2 weeks from now. Okay. So like, what are we waiting for? Like, if this is your child, would you not want to make sure that you are putting forth every single effort to reach them at a point where they are incredibly impressionable, and they, just like you said, they are making decisions based on emotion. Their brains are still developing. They are, a shout out to a former middle school administrator. They are middle school scrambled eggs. It is just a different thing every moment. They are balls of hormones. So getting kids to realize and understand decision making at that point is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And we need parents on board, especially at the middle school level, to help with that.
Yeah. On all levels.
Yeah, all levels.
All levels. Here's one thing that I think is really important. And this has happened to me a few times. I know I'm not the only one. You have a student who is a bit of a troublesome character. They truly and genuinely connect with you or another adult.
Yep.
And other teachers who have a harder time with that child want you to be, they don't really appreciate or care for your relationship with that child. And I don't think it's fair to, and I had a student, oh my goodness, she's doing so well and she's in her 20s now. And we reconnected over social media a couple of years ago, and she had the worst. I mean, she was having a real go of it where she would go from her class, she would leave class, go to the bathroom, not really the bathroom, and come and see me. And I just didn't understand why it made people so angry.
Yeah.
Why can't she come and see me? She didn't connect me, oh, you're not a counselor. Guess what? I am. I'm a teacher. I have taken classes, and I'm a human, and I can listen to someone who wants to see me and talk to me.
Yeah.
And, and so some kids, they come to school to be fed. Some kids come to school, to be loved. And if you have an adult who is loving and really genuinely connecting with a kid, to me, it just speaks to how beat down people are in our profession. Because if they really were supported and they were really like looking at it from the right place, they would say whatever that kid needs is what that kid is going to get, regardless of who it is doing the helping to them. And that really, that makes me like, oh, you need to go talk to them? Sure. And of course there are these extreme cases. And I say to my students all the time, like, just because someone said to you, I love you this morning before you left the house, like, you cannot assume that everybody else in this room has someone who tells them that they love them and shows them that they love them. And so, of course, on the side of the parents also, you just don't know what kinds of issues people are dealing with. But I do see like silly things are happening with education in the way of, so we have to send an interim report if the child is doing poorly, but the parents already have access to the grades online.
Yeah. So what are we doing?
Why are we doing that?
I don't think he listens to the podcast, but I'm going to say it in someone's what are we doing? That's that's a famous line from somebody that we work with.
What are we doing?
Do we feel he is? Do we feel empowered? Like, do you feel empowered in your job to make decisions that are going to lead to the best outcomes for your students?
Do I feel empowered?
Yeah.
No. Do you?
I know. No, I don't. And that's what leads me to like, and I'm sorry, I was kind of foreshadowing what I was going to talk about. And there was an article that was sent to me, and one of the quotes was, if your goal was to create, oops, sorry, I lost it. If your goal was to create a miserable work environment where employees are stressed, burned out, disrespected, or given no say in their job. Just look at the U.S. schools for inspiration. They are our best practice of miserable workplaces. And if you were looking for one major fix to education in America, you do everything in your power to ensure that teachers are empowered. And it's not that our boss doesn't allow us to be empowered to make decisions. It's the system has beaten everyone down at this point where I think everyone has the shortest fuse imaginable. Like you said, we're trying to deal with young people who don't necessarily have consequences.
Yeah.
And some, that I hear stories from teacher friends of mine, and for people who listen to the podcast, that their kid gets sent down to the office for cursing at somebody or cursing at the teacher, and they come back and they have a lollipop. Like, what are we doing? What I know, like, I'm not trying to sound like back in my day. I'm not trying to be that guy, but at the same time, like, we've had such a shift in how we deal with student behavior that also leads to a lack of consequences, not just at home, but at the school level as well. So,
And there are consequences in the real world. And I often say that to the kids. If I'm in ShopRite and I'm annoyed with the woman in front of me because she's taking a long time and I shove her to the ground, she has every right, as do any of the workers there, to call the police and have me arrested. The things that we're asking you not to do, verbally assault, physically abuse, all of the things that we're asking you not to do in the school environment are the same expectations and laws that we have as a society. So, this sort of runaround of like, well, and then they couldn't, and then, oh no, and you don't get that many chances as a real, actual person walking, day to day as an adult. So we're really giving them this false sense of what the, actual environment is like out in the world, because you can't just punch somebody in the face and someone's going to say, "Oh, you must have been having a bad day."
yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
No. And why are there,
we
and are there any parenting classes? Like, what are we doing? Like, right, we always want to have like response to intervention for the kids, but what are we doing right for the parents?
Yeah, I mean, I know. Pardon the pause, because it's just me
Long
thinking.
pause. Right.
I know. I'm literally sitting here going, nothing. Like, we're not doing anything. And
And
again,
there's different programs in different schools that get the parents in, invite the parents in, have the parents, learning and doing things. And, and some schools are really, really good at involving the parents. And
Yep.
I am completely and totally enamored by that entire piece of community as far as how you involve parents in schools. I mean, which is why I ran a parent, child, teacher book club for 20 plus years. And the interactions that I had with the parents were the most reaffirming, helpful conversations, moments, things that I learned from people that helped me to keep going as a teacher. I think we all need those moments of things that really like sort of boost us.
Yeah.
But, that needs to be sort of this more of a standard practice, right? I mean, I've had parents who've come in and it was the first book they ever read in English
Yeah.
because they had never read a book in English before. Or like my grandmother and my mother were illiterate and my child is teaching me to read. So maybe it has to be more programs like that where we're inviting the parents in to become more familiarized with the things that we're doing rather than we're only getting to them when something is amiss.
Yeah, and that's why I also, it's not a program, but I thought of how, you were saying how you were using our learning management system where we keep our grades to be able to send an email to the parents every week. I said, you know what? I'm doing that. And
Oh, yeah.
every week I send them an email and I say, hey, here's what we're working on this week. We got this project that's coming up, just to reinforce my expectations. Make sure you talk to your child about, proper attire at school, whatever the initiative is that. And I've gotten a number of responses from parents that said, hey, thanks for sending these. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And and maybe not everybody gets them or not everybody reads them, but at least they know that I'm willing to say, hey, here's what's going on in my class. You want to know what's going on? You're in Genesis. You want to know what we're working on? Well, guess what? Here it is. And it's short and it does not take me long.
Yeah. I love it. I receive them now from a couple different people. Even like band, yeah, tell me, like, what do they learn? What are they playing? What's the music? What's going on? When's the concert? I love knowing things in advance. So I don't mind that. I do have to say, like, my sister and I often talk about life as a parent in the 80s compared to life as a parent now.
Absolutely. That's actually absolutely something I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Right.
Like
Not only was it a lot of moms were still home. So not only were there a lot of stay-at-home situations or part-time parent, right? Worker parent, and then full-time worker parent, also many more two-family homes, right? So we have to obviously consider divorce as a factor, or, the people who are really fighting the single parent fight, which is so noble and exhausting. I can't even imagine. And so much less almost to keep up with. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I hate to say, like, Naviance is the straw that broke this mommy's back, but, like, how many more, right? It was like, I got Genesis, and then I got emails from the theater school, and then I got emails from, right? And it's like, check this, look at this, join this classroom, read this. And my sister and I always say, like, mom got like one folder and it had like a couple of flyers in it.
If that.
If that, right? It wasn't so even it's like now our kids are in high school and there's a website. It's like, I already see their grades, but then there's another website to log in to do everything. Seems even working papers. Now it's like there's a portal, and then you have a portal, and I have a portal, and you get a portal, and you get a job, and then you sign up. But it's like, talk about
Everybody gets
executive.
the portal.
Everybody gets a portal. But really, it's like, talk about educational connections in Ann Dolan. And I know she does have some parenting classes that, people can take. But it is really, sometimes I'm like, I have a case of the I can't want tos. I can't want to sign into another portal.
Yeah. Case of the I can't want tos. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, there's a lot of that. There are huge deficiencies in the fact that we are teaching kids in online platforms that parents are not familiar with, that the students are now utilizing AI tools that are not being used with authenticity or ethical nature behind them. That is a challenge that we face.
Do you ever think there's going to be a backlash and like everyone's just going to throw the computers away in schools?
Listen, I started. I don't use them as much as I used to.
As a system, not individual teachers. Do you think they'll ever say like, no? Yeah.
You know my personal take on this. I am, and I'm going to sound in the caution of sounding arrogant. I probably know a good amount based on my years of experience. I probably know a good amount of educational technology and how to implement it in my classroom.
Right. So if like someone who knows a lot is a 10, I would rate myself probably about a 6.
Yeah, I would say I would say I'm a 9. There's always room for growth. I don't think it's like the Dave Portnoy scale. Can't have a 10.
Did you see his dog? Oh my God, he got a dog. I can't. Oh my God, Miss Peaches.
Miss Peaches also keeps eating everything. I'm like, you dumbass. Stop. Oops, I used a bad word. He's keeping his remote on the ground.
No, I couldn't empty the dishwasher last night because I'm listening to Dave Portnoy talk to his dog.
Yeah, Miss Peaches. She took her peach. She's so adorable.
My wallet, Miss Peach. I know. I was like, oh, Miss Peaches, you're so cute.
So I think about all that, and like the thing I think we need to get the biggest handle on.
Yeah.
Is the cell phone use. It's just
you're obsessed with the cell phone.
I am absolutely obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And the reason
it really grinds your gears. It's the cutting.
No, it really grinds my gears.
It's the cutting of the cake for you in this episode.
Yeah, because again, I'm a rule follower by trade. That's the expectation that was given. And I have actually used a line of yours. I like a good working environment. And because my boss wants this for me, that's what my expectation is.
Mm-hmm. Plus, we have the greatest boss you can blame stuff on. Like she will, right? Like, no, you can't get water because, she said no, and no, you can't have that because she said no, and I love that because she will stand firm and like,
I said no.
Yeah, that's right.
Too bad.
I said no, and so and the kids know she says no, and she follows through with the no.
there have been a number of school districts around the state of New Jersey who have implemented the Yonder system, which is like a bag that it goes into and it gets secured with a magnet, and then they get to take it out. There was a school in Linden that like people went bananas and were standing outside and they were picketing and they didn't want like there's a fight and it's recorded and it's on it's out on social media, or a teacher does something or has a bad day and yells at a student and it gets recorded and it gets put on social media, or they are reading a test review into the voice notes and then they are listening to it while they're taking a test because they're quote unquote listening to music. That like we have to get a hand.
Oh, I haven't heard of that cheating.
We have to get we have to get a handle on the cell phone use. Okay. To teach them that there's an appropriate time to use your phone and not to use your phone. And for middle school students, that is not during the school day.
Yeah.
Period. Like I at this point, I know it grinds my gears, but at this point, like I'll go to my grave with that one. I don't want them in the room. It's unnecessary for them. There's enough technology. They need to interact, have conversations, still be able to talk to one another, think, reason, be doing a general amount of understanding.
And back to the parents, though, how many of them respond to you with like, my mom says I have to have it?
Yeah, no.
Do you know what I mean, though?
But that's not what the rules. That's not what the rules are, though. That's not what the rules are.
No,
and
I'm not talking about what the rules are. I'm saying
no, I know
what when we're talking about parental responsibility, right?
Yeah.
How many times is parental advisement in direct conflict with what the school rules are? And then they're like, I don't know, is that written anywhere? And it's like, yes, it is.
Yes.
Here's the policy. And then they don't like the and it's like, but it is. You agreed to it. This is in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge for me, and that goes back again to a parenting issue to me. Like if your child does not need their device during the school day, if you really need to get in touch with them, call the office. We'll pull them down to the office and you can talk to them. Like it's not really that big of a deal. High school kids, it might be a little bit different because you're trying to relax the ideas, but kids come home. My kids come home and they got a video from something that happened in the hallway that was passed around to them. Not that they are taking. It just gets kids. Can we not take random airdrops from people that we don't know? Can we? Can we stop that? Anyway, I didn't mean to get
it's cultural. But so to go back to our parenting, our question for our viewers is, do you find something that's working that you think that is really genuinely supporting the teachers that you know? Is there something that you think, can be put in place? I don't mind a good, complaining session if there is some resolution happening, some ways out of it, or to make it better. Rather than to just complain for complaining's sake. So we're very curious to see what you guys have to say or think, or any experiences with teachers who do feel supported, who definitely feel or empowered, not supported. I feel supported, empowered. And as far as reaching parents, some best practices for implementing ways to reach those parents and get them, moving in the right direction with the
Yeah,
kid.
we definitely would love to create a dialogue with our listeners about that. And again, I want to just restate, I do feel supported very much in my job. I think that the empowerment issue is a systemic issue. It's not a, my boss doesn't empower me. That's not what this is.
No.
I don't feel like that at all. I feel that if we're going to make decisions in the best interest of children, who better to do it than the teachers that are with those children each and every day?
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So,
well, Joe,
the next time I get a parent that doesn't respond to me, I'm just gonna be like, "What up with that? What's up with that?" I'm gonna sing the theme song to my favorite SNL skit. Probably not a good idea.
You never know; they might like it.
So you were saying there?
Well, I was just going to say, Joe, thank you so much for chatting it up with me today. And as always, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Jamie. And we will see all of you listeners on the next episode.
Bye, guys.
And you've been listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Have a topic we should discuss? Drop us a line at thebalancingactpod@gmail.com.